back to the Bar 46. Had a guy ask me an interesting question the other day that caused me to stop and kind of weigh my answer. I was wearing a nice custom straw that Cody, a local hat builder in Idaho, made for me, and the guy says, "Hey, are you a real cowboy?" I had to stop and weigh that. Nobody had ever asked me that before. So it caused me to kind of take a look at what is a cowboy. And, as a little kid, who didn't watch John Wayne or Gunsmoke or Bonanza? Or let's not forget the greatest Western of all, of course, is Lonesome Dove. Who didn't want to be Gus McCrae or Woodrow F. Call? So, do we ride horses here at the Bar 46? Yes. Do we drive old trucks? Yep. Do we run tractors? Absolutely. Obviously, we run cows. So, I guess by definition, I could say, yeah, I am a cowboy, but I guess what caused me to stop and think about it was, what's the difference between a cowboy and a cattleman? Well, a cowboy works cattle on his or her horse, cowgirls too. We don't do that at the Bar 46. I work them on my feet. When I get on my horse mud and approach my cattle, they're fearful. And some people would tell you that's a good thing. So cattle will do something that they can predict because they're fearful of you and that horse. So for herding, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but that's not what we do here. We work them on our feet and not on the horse. That's why my cows aren't afraid of me. And I work hard to establish that. I don't want them to be afraid of me. When they see me walk out or drive out in the gator, they look forward to me coming out because I'm probably bringing them something they're looking forward to eating that day. Opposed to being horseback, come out, they see it, and, they're thinking maybe you're going to throw a rope around their neck or their feet. Do we lasso cattle here? The answer to that is I think I've probably done it 5 times. And I'm just not very good at it and don't really care to practice, to tell you the truth. One time I lassoed a calf. He ran and fought so hard it choked him out. I didn't like that. The other one, I remember I lassoed this little 400-pound girl that's not that little and pretty well drug me down the side of the doggone mountain because I wouldn't let loose of the rope. I was just stupid. And I don't begrudge or have a problem with all the people that were my heroes growing up, the way they worked cows on the horse. Because that's the way the West was won. They didn't have corrals. They had to work them on horseback. They didn't have squeeze chutes that we have now to put them in to doctor them. I mean, that's all they could do was rope them, and I have absolute respect for that. But we have other tools here that allow us to work our cattle a little differently, and we use the carrot, not the stick, and I think it's better for them, and I think it's better for me too. So, what's a cattleman in comparison to a cowboy? Well, a cattleman, by definition, would be probably the one who owns the ranch, and the cowboys work for the cattleman or the cattlewoman. And the cattleman would be the one responsible for the herd, the finances, and all that go along with managing more of the business side of things. So, what are we? And what am I? And I guess what it comes down to is, what do you want to pride yourself as? And, you know, I'm proud I drive old trucks and I build fence and I do all those things that a cowboy does, but 7 years into this journey, and like I've said before, I'm absolutely not the expert, but I can tell you the way I see things. I work hard every day to be better at taking care of my cattle, their health, their well-being, hell, their happiness. And those things matter to me. The genetics. You know, we have to research the best gene pool to develop the best herd. And somewhere along that line, we need to find our way to profitability, otherwise we can't continue to do this. And those are all traits of a cattleman. But I think we can even take that cattleman version a step further and say, are you a Western cattleman or are you more of a Japanese cattleman? Let me shut this water off where I start flooding. So what does that mean? You know, a Western cattleman versus a Japanese cattleman. Well, let's take a look at that. In the West, the U.S., you know, a lot of people pride themselves on the number of head that they have and how many acres they have. And something I didn't even know before I stepped into this world is, because I'd ask people, how many acres do you have and how many head do you carry? And I didn't know I was offending them. The way it was relayed to me quite a few years ago, the guy said, well, Jim, that's like asking me how much money I have in the bank. And I said, hell, I didn't even know I was asking something inappropriate. But people that are not in the industry wouldn't know that, and they're not doing it to be disrespectful at all. It's just not understanding the culture. But the Japanese don't pride themselves on the number of head or the number of acres, because most of those farms have less than 10 head. You'd say, that can't be true. Well, it is true. And they're a pretty small island, and they don't have a lot of acreage. So they have to be really good at condensing their animals and the way that they take care of them. The black Wagyu, Tajima, for example, most of them are raised in pens. And the red that we raise, the Akaushi, in the Kumamoto prefecture, they're allowed to go and graze Mount Oso. But the Japanese would tell you that you need to lay eyes on your cattle every day, multiple times a day. Otherwise, how would you know how they're doing? And if there's something that you need to attend to. And they don't even use bulls to natural cover their girls. They use AI, and I don't know that one's better than the other. And I've heard some really smart people talk about both sides and how both sides work. So those are things that a cattleman need to consider. And where's that herd going in the future, and why are you going in that direction? And these are questions that a cowboy really doesn't need to be involved with, because Their job is to take care of what's happening today, where a cattleman needs to take care of what's happening in the future and how that ranch and that herd flourish. So those are a couple of things that I thought about when that guy asked me. And I was grateful that he asked me that he thought that, that I met the criteria for a cowboy, and here I had to tell him, no, I'm not a cowboy, because by every legal definition I am, but I pride myself on being a better cattleman. And really, I would say I'm a cattleman in training. Hell, I'm not even a true cattleman yet, because I don't have a full grasp of what this all looks like. And Jerry Reeves, a professor from WSU that raises the black Wagyu, he said, Jim, I'm still learning. Well, he's got 50 plus years in the game, and I guess that's the answer at the end of the day. We need to read and watch and communicate with other people in the industry to be better at what we do. And for me, I pride myself on not being better on horseback and better with the rope. I pride myself on being better at taking care of my cattle. So if you're in the business or you thought about it, you probably, as a young person, if you're a young man, hell, who didn't want to be a cowboy? But it's crazy the universe is listening, and its question to you is, what do you want to be? And my answer to that is, I want to be better. I want to be better with my cows. I want to be better with my soil. I want to be a better husband. I want to be a better grandfather, better father. And I think that that's more of a multi-phase plan from a cattleman's perspective. Is let's look at the farm not from the 5-foot level. And I think that that's the cowboy's job, and that's not a bad thing, because somebody's got to take care of the day-to-day needs of my cattle. Somebody's got to feed them. Somebody's got to pay attention to those things. They got to look at their feet, look at their eyes. They got to see if they're healthy. But that's a cowboy's perspective, to my understanding. But a cattleman's perspective is more of like the 500-foot level, that you're seeing and projecting into the future, and you're building a herd that will be more beneficial, not just to the cattle, but to the farm. And see what the needs are that exist out there in the market, because they change. People are looking for a different gene pool, and what wins today may not win 6 months from now. And so you try to stay ahead of the game. You read and see which way the market's going and what people are looking for. One of the things that we've talked about here that we're starting is a halter breaking program for all of our bulls and replacement heifers, so that when a small farm buys a bull or replacement heifer from us, they're getting a very docile, healthy, genetically superior animal that they can work on their feet. Those things are important to me. So if somebody was to ask you, one, are you a real cowboy, or what do you want to be? I guess you get to make that decision. And I guess I didn't really weigh all of that until somebody asked me. So that's my take on the cowboy versus cattleman, and then the cattleman versus Western versus the Japanese. And I don't know that any one of them is better or worse than the other. You get to choose what works for you, and that's the beauty of this. But that's what I've reduced it to, I guess, is I'm a cattleman in training, and I probably always will be. And that's something I'm pretty damn proud of. So anyway, I hope I was able to answer a few of your questions if you had any about the difference between a cowboy and a cattleman. And that's from Jim at the Bar 46 perspective. Have a great day. Thanks for stopping by.